Hello, I'm Chris, the Tabletop Fox, and welcome to my video on Halo Flashpoint. In this series, we'll be having a look at the Banished faction, and going through their units and seeing how they're performing in Season 1. In this video, we're going to have a look at the Jiralhanae captains, and these captains are really good units, and they are seeing quite a bit of play in some high-ranking lists. So, why is it that they are seeing this play? Well, it won't be because of their cost, because they are expensive. They are, outside of Legends characters, I believe the most expensive units in the game currently, at 56 and 55 points respectively. But what do you get for that cost? Well, you get Spartan level of survivability. They are pretty similar to a Mark 7 in a lot of regards. So they have the 4 range and the 4 fight stats. They have a 5-up save, 2 armor, and 2 shields. So exactly the same as a Mark 7 there. They then have 1 free movement, so going along with the Brute Space 1, but they do have the free sprint, and a HP of 6, so quite a lot of HP, only second to Atriox in HP. So they are a lot to kill. Alongside their stat line, they have the keywords, as of course, of imposing, same as all other brutes, and then they have Tactician 1, which is one of the big reasons why they're getting used a fair bit, because they bring some tactician to the Banished list, especially being combined with Reinforcement Sangheili Mercenaries. And lastly, they have Jump Pack, which just adds into that movability. So Jump Pack lets them move through walls. So the best example being the L-shaped pieces of terrain that come in the Spartan edition. They can just go straight through that instead of having to go one up and one down to go over it. They also can move across 1 cube without a floor, and they can go up without walls as long as they end their move on a cube with a floor. And this is really good for things like King of the Hill, where this height movement and going through the L shapes is really strong. It's also quite strong the countering tactic I use in VIP, where I hide in the L-shaped buildings because of how much movement you have to get around to get into melee from a respawn. Because they can just respawn in their one and then grapple in through the wall. So if there's an enemy captain, that's not a tactic I'm using, because they are brutal into it. Now getting more into them, they do have their normal struggles of the 1 base movement and having pinning screw it up. And the fact that they are so hard to kill, a lot of the time pinning is the way you're going to have to deal with them, because killing them can be very difficult and very resource intensive. Which, similar to Atriox, means running them with elites makes the opponent focus more on those elites. Because those speedy, easier to kill elites cause more problems in regards to objectives than this brute, and that is kind of the trick with it, is the smoke and mirrors. Get you to go after the elites, who are needing to be dealt with, but with those lovely reinforcements dice that tack's helping you get, and then the brute just waits until last activation if it can. If the opponent doesn't have more activations or isn't going last, it means you've always got your tack. And if they are getting a last activation, it's a very hard thing to get killed off to remove your tack for the next round. So it gives this very difficult situation for the opponent to deal with, where they have to decide, do I kill these elites for the points and get them out of position, but then give them their reinforcements usage now? Or do I try and focus out that brute captain to try and remove that order for this round, knowing that next round the elites are going first, and they might be in a position that can cause me issues with them going first. It's a really big mind screw to be dealing with, and that is why the combo works so well if used correctly. Now going into the 2 variants of the brute captains. So one, we have the Ravager captain. He has a gun that covers 3 different profiles, which is interesting. It has a range 6 AP1 rapid fire mode, so AP1 for the killing, but it's only AP1, nothing else, no optics or anything, so it's not the best for killing, but it's rapid fire, and they shoot on 4s, so it's a decent rapid fire weapon for them. You then have its implosion grenade mode, which is range 5, AP1, blast, ESD1, implosion 5, and long. So this mode is not great. For one, it's implosion, which means it won't pin or scatter the opponent. It's just mainly there to do damage. Now, Implosion 5, it's a decent bit of dice, but then only ESD1 and AP1 it's not always going to cause a lot of wounds, and having it take a long action makes it very difficult to be using. It's very rare, if ever, you'll see this used. And the last profile is it takes over their melee with a AP1 lethal 1 profile, which is really good for killing. Into stuff like ODSTs, that's 2 to kill. Spartans, you get 1 for the armor and then it's 3 to kill if they haven't got their shields up. And elites, again, if they haven't got shields up, it's the same as ODST. But there's a big issue with this, in my own opinion. They lose out on their fists, which aren't very lethal, but they have knockback. And that knockback is what makes the brutes even more scary. Because what's even better with one of these brute captains is having him sit there with a opponent model, keeping it pinned up while the elites get the run free. So you're reducing one of theirs by 1, he's still going to do his attack, and he's causing issues. Or if it goes into modes like Stronghold, getting into those corners and just knocking the opponent out. Losing that knockback to me is a massive downgrade for it rather than a upgrade with the lethality. So you can't actually pick up a extra melee weapon like with Spartans or elites, as I mentioned in the brute video. So it is the only way really of getting them a more lethal melee outside of going full melee with a hammer, but that is an option in itself. And that is one that people possibly like to do with this one, is sometimes give it a gravity hammer, because then you've got a decent range weapon with rapid fire, and then you've got a knockback melee weapon that's even better, which combines the lethality with the knockback. And you still have the other melee profile where if you're in that position where you go into a cube and there is no walls around you, so knockback will knock them out of the cube, you can still then choose to use the non-knockback profile that can still do some damage to them, but will keep them stuck in the cube with you, where when they then try to leave, you get to hit them again, but this time possibly with the hammer, and maybe knock them in the direction they don't want to go, to make it so it takes them more cubes to get where they want to go. So it does have a really good bit of benefit with that combination, and that is where I would say this captain is the better choice if you want to go with that more melee focused captain. Same with if you wanted to go with a sword one, because then you've got that rapid fire to get around snapshot as well. However, we have the other captain variant, which runs with a Hydra. Now, the Hydra itself is a gun that I to and fro on. It's pretty much a mini fuel rod spanker. So it's range 4, so close to a fuel rod there. It's got lethal ESD and AP all at 1. So it's got the lower parts on both of those, where the fuel rod gets 1 more AP and the spanker gets 1 more ESD. And it's also only frag 4, so it's 1 less dice. But it's still a decent weapon, and it actually has frag, so it can pin and knock back, which is good. It is explosive though, so it does need line of sight to the cube. It cannot be fired without line of sight. So that is one negative compared to the Ravager's one, but at least this one can be fired on a short action. The other bonus is this brute still has his knockback on his melee, so he can do all those things I've already mentioned really well. And then what you usually would look at combining this one with is a more precision weapon. So a Covenant Carbine, BR-75, because again, 4 shoots that, it's quite good with those. And then it gives you that extra range. So it can use the frag launcher one if it's got multiple enemies in the cube, or if you want to shoot your own elites when there's an enemy in with them so you can try and kill them off. That's a choice with that. You've got then the Covenant Carbine BR-75 to give it a really good long range lethality side to it. And the bonus to that is if it gets pinned, it still can do something even if there's nothing close enough for even its Hydra. And you've got the melee nuisance where if you get into melee with them, you just hold them up. They just cannot really leave if there's a wall. Or they have to get quite lucky because they have to beat you out when you've got imposing to get an extra dice. And also beat the wall where the wall's got the advantage as well, usually. So it's a really good unit for just completely shutting down opponents, and it's why it's such a good one to bring with attack as well, because it's very hard for it to lose its attack. So with them both, similar to Aatrox, you want to run them with a health pack if you can, because that 6 HP with getting through 2 armor, in this case, is a lot. Especially if they still have the shields up on that first shoot, it means that the opponent's going to struggle getting down. It also means if the opponent comes into melee with them and doesn't kill in one, they go back up to full health, so when the opponent tries to leave, the opponent's not getting an extra dice for trying to leave, which then gives it more to the upper hand of the brutes. Other than that, then you look at giving them a grapple or thruster. Both can work. It depends on what your other units are taking. In some preference, grapple. Now, if you're running them with two, say sword elites or elites that want to do some melee, those are probably taking the grapples and thrusters a lot of the time. They may not be, but they probably are. In that case, other options is you can give them things like drop walls, just to make them a real pain to kill even more so. Or even camo is an option, because of their shields and everything else. But the drop wall is probably the better pick in general, just because it makes them so annoying, and it also doesn't have the negative if you only get it until they do one action or shoot. But at least the camo does come with them, so you can look at it in two different ways. But the Brute Captains are really good units. It's another one of those ones where getting pinned and having that one base movement is a problem for them. But that's where you want to combine them with things like elites for that movement, or even going with large amount of numbers in the Brute, so it's taking the enemy by overwhelming numbers where they can't pin everything. Because pinning weapons aren't as common now. Yes, Gunganiers come up a lot, but it's not like Season 1 where killing was a bad thing, so pinning was a lot more common. Because killing is a good thing now for Husky, pinning doesn't get seen as much. Frag weapons aren't a guarantee, so it doesn't always happen for them to get pinned. And in regards to Husky, they're not giving up points very easily. They're likely getting you a lot more points in the way of kill points. So especially if the modes coming up are a lot more kill focused, then Brute Captains are incredibly good for it. It's only when you start looking at maybe stuff like Extraction, maybe King of the Hill, that they start to have a bit of a struggle. Things like Strongholds though, go throw one in the 3VP corner and let the opponent try and deal with it. Because until they kill it off the first time, it's your hill. But yeah, Brute Captains, really good. Give them a try. They've done really well in competitive combined with elites, and they are one of the best options for bringing Tactician into your banished list at current. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there's anything you disagree with in my thoughts about the units, or anything you think I missed, please feel free to let me know in the comments. But with that, I've been the Tabletop Fox. I hope you have a lovely day, and ta-ra!